panelists are Mr. P.H. Srikanth, Mr. Narsi Reddy, and Mr. Sanjay Shetty, and Mr. Vivek Verma. And the moderator is Vinuta Ralapalli. A very good evening. We've just seen yesterday what a good mentor can do. We have won the silver with the help of a great mentor with us. And as such, we are here to discuss more about mentorship and entrepreneurship and investments. So can we just start with introductions?
Hello, my name is Srikanth. I look after Hyderabad Angels investments, portfolios and exits. Would like to take more questions after we have this round of introduction, and subsequently, happy to kind of interact with each one of you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Vivek Verma. I am a coach, investor and a philanthropist. I run a coaching and leadership training business, and I am also a startup ecosystem player and an investor.
Hello everyone, I am Sanjay Shetty. I represent 50K Ventures. We work with very early stage startups.
My name is Narsi Reddy Pusham. I'm the founder and managing director for the Smart Run. Thank you.
How many are entrepreneurs here who have already started something? As you know, there are so many ups and downs every day, and to have somebody that we can talk to and try to resolve our issues is what a good mentor should do ideally. And how do you go about choosing a good mentor? What are the things that a startup should look at when they're choosing a mentor?
So, as coming from an investor perspective, how I would look at it is that somebody who can really give some, mind space to you guys, so somebody who can kind of help you with his past experience and credentials and network, right? And of course, kind of teach you what are the moral values and kind of hold them very high. So, in fact, a lot of them put in a package. More importantly, somebody who can actually spend that time, give that time to you guys. That's very important.
I guess it's a question of finding, besides the skills, what Srikanth talked about, it's also to find what is the common passion. Is there something that you share or the mentor shares with you from a passion perspective? Because one of the most important things for an enterprise to be successful is the purpose, is the value that you're kind of talking about and creating. So I think it's also equally important when you're choosing a mentor to see that is there a passion sharing that can happen, or is it just about knowledge? Because in my view, a good mentor should be able to bring both good quality of knowledge and skill and passion, so that he's also driven or she is also driven in the same manner, if not at the same level as you, to take the business to the next step.
So my take on finding a mentor is like, first you need to identify a mentor who can really understand your business, specifically the domain, like, so it could be the model. So where initially you should be in a position to help you in iterating your model, whether it's the right kind of, especially if you're in a technology company startup, like a mentor who's having that kind of technology background will definitely help out. So you should be very specific on choosing a mentor first who is suitable for your domain.
Maybe I may have a completely different perspective on this mentorship or a coaching or whatever we call it. So I think one of the biggest problem, especially in like Indian startups or Indian ecosystem of startups, are like a lot of these organizations, right? So I see that, right? See, the entrepreneur is the key guy. I see that you are the mentor for yourself. Maybe when you decide to start a company or when you want to do something, you might have thought like you would not have slept for many days. And I see that, right? You could have advisories at one certain level, but like if somebody is coaching, somebody is mentoring, I think you are not even ready to start the business. Like you need to have what you are doing it, right? You need to understand. You need to able to communicate. You need to be able to justify your financial model. And I believe, like as an entrepreneur, you think you are leading the thing. You think you should be able to dictate the terms. No, I think I don't believe in this like the mentorship or a coach, or I'm not come across, or I don't believe in that. But I certainly agree, right? As a company or a startup, one thing I advise to a lot of young entrepreneurs like me also, you need to have a right experienced people. Like a lot of, right, like maybe we have a young blood and we want to do something, and you have a lot of bigger ambitions to do something, and then after that, right, and the people, right, the lot of the leadership team always want to get a nest to him, and they don't want to hire a guy who is better than him actually. So as long as you go and start hiring the people who is experienced enough to run the business, where you have that thought, you have that energy, you have that aggression, but you need to surround it by a very experienced team. Then I think, yeah, I leave it to the, maybe you can have a right, like advisory board and something to connect you to the right people for the investment and all those things. But I don't believe in day-to-day mentorship to the startup or entrepreneur. You should be leading the show.
So just to ask an add-on question for that. As such, the entrepreneurial journey is very lonely. There are so many highs and lows. Don't you think a third person's perspective sometimes could just be what you need?
See, that's one of the fundamental questions. I think maybe sometimes somebody can come and really help you. But look at the, like you have named the companies in Bay Area here. There's the successful companies, right? Look at it. They are not like grown up by mentors actually. So I completely agree in the sports side. Yesterday Gopichand has done a tremendous job like training the Sindhu. But that's not the same case for the startups. Talk to Steve Jobs, anybody, right? They're not like grown up by mentors actually. Because if you you need to have your own conviction, right? And you need to know his business. If somebody else is coming and doing a mentorship, and I'm sure he should have been an entrepreneur, or you should have done much better than him, right? But I can challenge, right? The same thing I challenge even the next generation students, right? Whenever I go and talk to the students, I tell them, I inspire them, you are better than your teacher. Remember, if your teacher is better than, like, it's okay, but that's the thing. Then our Indian society, that's strongly missing. You always think somebody is teaching you is better than you. But start questioning, start taking the steps. See, the whole, the Indian the startup ecosystem is the money. Like as the startup company started, you have 10 advisories and 10 mentors try to show up. But I think that it's not a mentorship, give them the money. They know it what they are doing it. If you can step up and just give a check to them, that is more than enough. Look at like in a Bay Area or Silicon Valley, most of these guys, when they go and talk, the entrepreneurs talk to them, without no questions asked, they write 100K, 200K, 300K checks. I have more respect to them than this mentorship or a coaching.
Many students here? Do we have many students? Yeah. So Vivek, this is more for you. When do you think is the right time to start up? What would be the right age? And what is the role of early stage support, whether it be through teachers or mentors? When do you think is the right time that students should look at starting up?
So I'll answer that question slightly differently. I will answer it saying when is the right time for someone to look at entrepreneurship rather than look at startup. Because in my view, startup is probably a subset of entrepreneurship, though a lot of times the world looks at it in reverse, that entrepreneurship is a subset of startups. So I would kind of reverse that and say from an entrepreneurship standpoint, I don't think there's any age. There's been enough cases of people who have been school dropouts and who've built very successful businesses, whether it's in the technology space or otherwise. So I think in terms of when is the right age when people can start thinking like an entrepreneur, I think that it must start as early as possible. Being a certified and trained coach, we say that anyone above the age of 5 years is coachable, is someone with whom you can work because their brains are developed to the extent that they can think and act in a manner where a lot of these impressions can be created. So to answer your question in terms of when can the entrepreneurship thinking be inculcated in people, it can be in school children. Maybe 5 years is too early, but maybe somewhere in the 10 years, 12 years age, I think it can start. And I think there are a lot of initiatives now that are being done where some of these things are starting. You know, whether it is the TIE initiative that they're doing with young entrepreneurs. A lot of schools are now starting from 10th grade, starting to focus on innovation, on creating new products, on prototyping and doing all of that. Coming to your specific question as a subset of that in terms of startups, my sense is I think it's a good time for people to do that when they are in high school or in graduation. More because they've got enough exposure to what the world is standing for, what could be the need that they are trying to satisfy, and how can they kind of look at creating a holistic solution. So I would tend to think high school graduation is probably the time when they should look at as a first step, as early stage startups. But is there an age when one should look at a startup? I don't think there is an age. Somebody can start that in school. Somebody could be an entrepreneur at the age of 50. It doesn't matter. You know, at both ends there are advantages and disadvantages of doing that, and there isn't a right formula to say it should happen at this age or that.
Srikanth, Hyderabad Angels has invested in a lot of companies in the last few years. I'm sure there are wonderful mentors that support and help startups. Have there been situations where probably the mentors had a different point of view, you had a different point of view? Were there any kind of situations?
So, I mean, that's natural to happen, and it has happened also. But I think, you know, beyond a point, what happens is you kind of agree to disagree, but then, you know, you kind of find a way to work together. And I think which is healthy. So, in fact, I keep telling all our portfolio companies that, you know, you guys are free to kind of come back and discuss with me what the issues are, while we can probably tell you 3 or 4 ways to kind of handle those issues. But then ultimately you are the ones who have to take a call on what needs to be done. So the day you look up to me as to what the exact only solution is to your problem, I think I would probably write off that investment. So therefore it has to be a two-way process, but ultimately, you know, the founder has to take the call. We like to see it that way. I mean, our support is there, our mind space, bandwidth, all of that of course would be there because, you know, we've invested, our skin is in the game, right? But we will definitely have more confidence if the founder is actually, you know, in the driver's seat.
So just to continue on the same question, all the angel networks invest in pools. Basically, everybody pools in their money. Do you think an investor should be on board as a mentor? What are the advantages and disadvantages of that?
So it's not like a mentor is there on the board. So we typically take a board seat, and therefore the board director obviously plays an active role, plus the company also has access to all the members, you know, who are investors with Hyderabad Angels, right? Which is like more than 100 today. So that's how we look at it. And again, as in fact I partly agree with what he was also saying, Narsingh, so that, you know, you should be smart enough to take, you know, what you kind of, you hear so many things, but pick and choose what is actually workable for you, right? So there are many people who can give you free advice. Likewise, there are many people who like to take, you know, just some kind of an equity, sweat equity, kind of advisory equity. I don't think that does really good unless they're ready to kind of put some hard money like into the play, right? Again, it is not, you know, I'm not trying to generalize it. There are genuine cases where there are gurus, there are mentors who kind of can't put the money, but they add a lot of value. Along the way, maybe you should be wise enough to kind of pick the brains, take their advice. But again, one size doesn't fit all.
About whatever situations they're going through.
Any thoughts on any of your investors, you know, advising you? How do you respond? Like,
I don't mind any kind of transparent discussions with my investors. I would be more open up with my investors about the business plans or my financial situation, anything, right? They are the more important for me than anybody actually. But I don't seek a mentorship from my investor at all. It's end of the day my call, right? It's my, whatever I feel, I put it out. I convince him. If he doesn't get convinced, then I find a right investor who get convinced with my story. I never seek a mentorship from the investor. But I just be as transparent as possible to put out whatever is happening in the business. it's end of the day, right? We have all have to take a collective decision. If it has to be passed, it's passed.
Sanjay, we'll start with you. We've been in the ecosystem for 4 or 5 years now, and so many things have changed. But still, I don't think we have not solved the problem of finding the right mentors and the right startups. What do you think is the missing link?
Yeah, so as you said, since if you take from 2008 and 9, things have changed a lot. So earlier, if you see, even the number of startups or people picking up startup entrepreneurship as a career was very less. But today, if you see, it is increasing drastically. Even today, a lot of even corporate employees who want to quit their jobs and either join a startup or want to do their own startup, right? So yes, there's a problem. Definitely, I agree that it's always a challenge to find right kind of mentor. It doesn't mean that there are no sufficient mentors in the market. There are mentors scattered everywhere, but it's only you need to find them. So events like this or different forums are trying to help them out, the startups, to find the right kind of mentors. And I'm sure eventually in the coming years, definitely it will be solved, because even a lot of incubator accelerators are focusing, emphasizing too much on mentorship. So by which they're also roping in all mentors, experienced guys who have achieved something in their life, or who are the people who can be the game changers for the startups. Right now, yes, it's still a little difficult, but I'm sure like in the coming years, it's going to change.
Do you think sector-focused incubators or accelerators are going to change this?
Yes, and one good thing what we could see is, yes, this sector focused accelerator incubators which are coming up, which is highly needed right now. Because someone who is working exclusively on an specialized technology or a specialized domain, he need to approach an incubator which is dealing with rest of the domains as well. But the standalone incubators, accelerators which are focusing on sector specific will definitely be a boon for these startups or aspirants who want to work on specific areas.
Any more thoughts on that, Vivek, Srikanth? Sector-specific accelerators, do you think they really bring something onto the table?
I think it would benefit for sure, because you're interacting with people who are very much in the same domain. So there will be a lot more focused conversations which will happen, rather than a generic accelerator or a incubator, because the discussions are very generic. So both have advantages and disadvantages again, because in a generic conversation you are at least getting to hear different perspectives, and sometimes that's a value that can get added. But coming to specific, which are domain specific, they do have the advantage of at least having a lot of knowledge in that domain, which even the accelerator will help you get. So it's not about just the participants of the accelerator or incubator, but even the incubator which will be knowledgeable in that area. So I think it will certainly help to take them to the next level. I certainly think so.
I think I have a very different opinion on these accelerator and incubators also. I think like I can, maybe you can question any genuine entrepreneur. If I have a thought, I don't mind putting a plastic chair there and giving a computer. I don't mind starting doing something. There is a misconception, like today a lot of incubators, right? You have a nice chair, nice environment, nice AC, there's the internet, all those things, right? See, most of these entrepreneurs are not lack of them. Most of the companies are born in the garages. Like I know. Very frankly, if I have a thought, bus stand is enough for me to start coding it. We don't need anything other than laptop. Most of the apps are everything, right?
Then I'll ask you one more question on that. If we have so many entrepreneurs who are so gritty and A-listers, then we would be having more fabulous companies from India than we have currently.
There's a problem, right? It's all the problem with India is the availability of the risk capital. I don't see these incubator and the accelerators are providing that. The risk capital is not there today, right? The other problem with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of startups, see, like now from last 10 years to now, lot of families could afford 50 lakh to 1 crore as a burning capital. Lot of these kids, they think, oh, I don't want to work, I want to start a company. Right? It's like their thing is, it's not a thought actually. It's like I don't want to work for somebody. That is a misconception with the 90% of the entrepreneurs. I don't want work for somebody. I want to start a company right after college. My father or my uncle or one of my friend can give me 1 crore or 10 lakhs or whatever it is. I start a company. And see, they themselves are not convinced with the business. Now you go and talk to these like all the mentors or whatever advisories, then they just fall into that whole like ocean and you flood. And that's why the failure rate of startups are very, very high. See, the startup has to be started by a genuine thought. Right? There is a burning desire, there is something. Then you need to believe it that for the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, whatever the world is saying it, you believe in it, start executing it. And at the same time, you don't have to burn your money also. A lot of, like, see, right, like they burn 30, 40 lakhs and they don't know what to do it. And they went to India. And these, the accelerator incubators are not providing the risk capital to them. You have a burning desire, you go and pitch. And then India, you don't have anybody can write a check like 100K, 200K. And that is not there. There is no way you can build these companies. That's the biggest problem with the Indian whole the startup ecosystem.
Can we just continue with the same question? What is the biggest problem you see?
So I would like to, sir, I'll take your opinion because you have a different approach. I'll feel really happy like if a lot of entrepreneurs really be like you, think like you that I have an idea, I'll perform it. But today's scenario, if you see, a lot of entrepreneurs, they themselves come forward seeking some kind of support, advice or mentorship, okay? So Vivek is sitting next to me. Before as a mentor, he's an active investor also. I see Vivek, he puts money and then he'll say, I'm also open to advise and mentor. So people come to him not just for mentoring because he's also an active investor on that. So he's putting his capital, the risk capital, not expecting return, but is also volunteering for that. Why I'm saying this because today things are changing because of so much of awareness, so much of information and a lot of resources available. It's a good opportunity for a lot of individuals, aspirants who want to start their own ventures, right? So because of the not having much of experience, they really seek some kind of guidance or a channel or a path. I agree like not every incubator or accelerator may not provide that risk capital, but I could see a great value because even as an investment forum, what we see is we always also partner with a lot of incubators, simple reason because most of the startups who go through the rigorous process of this incubation program, I feel some kind of discipline in them. When I say discipline, they get learned about a lot of things and they try to avoid a lot of risk which they would have done without having any support. So I agree probably your perception is different, but today scenario is happening in this.
I think, don't mistake me, right? We always come across 1 out of 100, the good guy and want to invest and mentor it or whatever it is, right? I'm not talking about the one good guy, I'm talking about what is happening 90%. So the other thing, right, the one other comment I want to say, see that's exactly my point, right? If a guy is not sure about what he is doing, is not qualified to start a company. Don't mistake me, but I'm saying that you need some more time. You need to work at 2-3 places. You need some more maturity. If you cannot convict yourself or you cannot justify yourself and you need a lot of help and a lot of things, I think I tell people to just wait. Maybe you can work for, nothing wrong working for others, right? You learn and you are not ready for the entrepreneurship. That's my strong suggestion.
I'd like to just add that, you know, in my view, as I see it, there are 5 stages to a startup. An ideation stage, a stage where you're trying to convert that idea into a purpose or into a vision or into something like that. Then comes the valuation stage, then comes the value creation, and then comes the wealth creation. As I see it, these are the 5 stages, and that's the evolution entrepreneurs need to go. The unfortunate part, as I see in the ecosystem today, at a lot of times, is that we get stuck either at the 2nd stage or at the 3rd stage. Very few of us are able to pass the 3rd stage and get to what I call value creation. And I keep talking about this to a lot of people I work with, that a startup has to differentiate between valuation and value creation. Because only when they are able to do that differentiation is when they will evolve and go to creating unicorns and creating successful businesses. And what you said, most people are today looking at 1 crore, I want 5 crores. Anyone today who has an idea, has an aspiration for a $1 million funding, based on just idea. I have an idea and I need 1 crore valuation, and I am willing to dilute 10% stake. And for that 10%, you know what? You've got to do all the work. Because now I have brought you in, and now you have to help me find customers, you have to help me become profitable, you have to help me grow geographies. So the question is that, are we creating the right value system in our entrepreneurs to say that this is not about starting at ideation and stopping at valuation. It is about going further than valuation, which is value creation, which will eventually lead to wealth creation. So I'm not for a minute saying that we become saints and we say it's not about wealth. But wealth comes as the 5th stage in my evolution theory rather than at the 2nd stage. Whereas a lot of people today are focused on valuation. And you say, what is the purpose of your startup? It is to get 1 million valuation. If that's the purpose of your startup, then my suggestion is shut your startup and go and do a job. Because you're more suited for a job, you're not suited for a startup. If you are saying, I want to create 10,000 jobs and I want to create a 10,000 crore industry in this country, then you are thinking like an entrepreneur, because you are already thinking like stage 4 or stage 5. And I think that's the difference. If we have to kind of modify our incubators, our accelerators, our startup ecosystem, is to do that encouragement to start thinking in much bigger terms of value creation and wealth creation.
Sure, thank you.
I 100% agree with you, sir. 100% agree. So see, I'm saying more to the entrepreneurs than the people sitting here. So that's exactly I'm saying, right? The entrepreneurs, you have a three, 4 steps to cross. You have your own, right? Because a lot of people, like, as soon as they want to start a company, they think like they assume a fancy office. You don't need to have a fancy offices. You work hard, you prove something, then come to it. And as I think the other gentleman said, there's a process and policies and all the things. I said like it's after like a while. Now like I run a business, I started creating my revenues, whatever it is. Now like I think like I have to behave like a much more matured company. And then I'll go and hire like HR, and I go on the legal counsel, I go and hire whatever the department I hire, and I ask them to make it more process policy oriented. But the early stage of startups, I think it's a lot responsibility on the entrepreneur. You need to have your conviction. If you're not sure about your idea, you're not sure about the impact of the idea to the end mass, I think you're not there. It's like you may run like for 3 years, 4 years, but that's not going to really create a real thing out of it.
Sure. Thank you. Just one point that you were saying about risk capital. Is there a dearth of risk capital? Is there early stage funding? Is there a problem with early stage funding in Hyderabad, in India?
I would say so. I mean, not just Hyderabad, or I mean, I think in India, it is there. So, I mean, if you're looking for that kind of money, I think the entire ecosystem in India itself has to mature and evolve. And of course, I mean, again, I'm no pope because I'm speaking from the investor side. So it's, if somebody has to be blamed, then it has to start from us. But then again, all of us are responsible, accountable for the money that we invest. We invest somebody else's money. So the risk appetite is only so much. And hopefully we'll see a lot more, success, and therefore the risk appetite will grow. But long and short of it is yes, I mean, I think the risk appetite is less.
I think, Vinita, it's large. It's an issue which is slightly larger in my view, that it is about the ecosystem. Because in my view, the risk appetite has probably gone down, also because the dishes being served to that appetite are not up to it so far. A lot of times people have taken the risk and gone and made investments basis a wrong assessment or a wrong projection, and hence people have become even more skeptical. So if there are good companies, if there are good businesses, if there are good compelling stories, and I go back a lot of times to the fact that it is about how good is your story. If you are a good storyteller and you have a good story, Both are important. If you are a good storyteller and you have a good story, then I personally don't see the risk appetite to be a problem, because there are enough companies who are still getting funded. A lot of companies do get funded. A lot of them are struggling. So I'm not sure if that's that much of an issue with the risk capital is as much an issue with the story that people are bringing to the table and how compelling are those businesses for people to make investments. So I think it's slightly larger than just the lack of risk capital. I think it's the fact that the ecosystem needs to be kind of taken to the next level.
And also, like Srikanth was saying, probably we didn't see the returns yet. As a country, we still, as our investors still didn't see the good times.
It's early days. It's early days for a lot of investors also. It's early days. I think as an ecosystem in India itself, it's early days. You know, we can't really be comparing to the valley because it's not the same. It's not the same from a evolution stage perspective. It's not the same from an ecosystem perspective. So yes, I think we are evolving, and in my view, we are evolving quite fast.
Sanjay, more thoughts?
Yeah, so today you see like so many startups are getting funded, right? And in the early stage, I also see a lot of people also, HNIs or any corporates, they also want to come forward and invest in startups. So everyone is aware of the fact that when you invest in startup, it's not a guaranteed return. So definitely it's going to encourage a startup. And today if you see most of the investors, you ask them, why do you invest and what makes you invest in the company? He never says about the monetary part. He only says this model is good, this is going to be the problem solver, or this team is really awesome, and all this kind of, and I never find people emphasizing or with the game of giving a check the principal back. So definitely people understand the kind of risk involved and then take a conscious call to invest in that company.
Just on the investment side, I'm sure Vivek and Srikanth, Sanjay, you know guys, Estonia is a really small country, but the number of angels in that place is astounding. For a country as big as ours, do you think we have enough people? What do you think are the things that we should do as ecosystem players to encourage more senior level employees or more entrepreneurs to come, invest in early stage companies? What are the steps that we should take? How do you enable more angel investors? How do you educate investors?
Okay, so I don't know what answer Vinuta was expecting, but I actually tell a lot of people who come to me to raise money to not to raise money, and a lot of people who come to me saying I want to invest, and I tell them don't invest, because it's very important that each one of them understands why they are taking the capital, and for the other person why the person is investing. Therefore, I think it's like you need to obviously understand how this whole thing works. Second thing is you have the risk appetite and the capital. And this is probably the riskiest of asset class to be kind of associated with, right? So it's not about tutoring, it's not about educating beyond a point. I think it's about you should come prepared, A, with the mindset, B, with the resources and the credentials and knowledge, and then you are probably there for investment, right? Just like an entrepreneur, even for an investor, it's a very long haul game. It's not about like, you just invest in 6 months or 1 year, you're looking for an exit. It's not that simple. So, that's what my answer would be.
I think in terms of how do we develop the ecosystem, how do we bring more people in, I think one of the things that we need to do is to demystify, because for a lot of people today, investor is a very big term and is an entity which a lot of people don't understand. It is slowly changing, which is where when Sanjay said a lot of corporates, as in corporate employees, who are also coming forward to become investors, which was not the case maybe 5 years ago. And I think that's happening because people are beginning to understand seed capital, angel investment. So these are not people who are making every check of 2 crore investment. For a lot of people, that's the understanding that, if I have to become an investor, I have to write a check of 1 crore. And I'm not there yet, and hence I'm not going to get into this fray. And that's a separate discussion I've been having, that we need to find a method to demystify a lot of these things and tell people that one, it is about the risk and you've got to be prepared for risk. And second, it is not about every investment being 1 crore. It is about small investments because you will take baby steps. And once you've understood the system, once you understand the whole process of investment, maybe you'll start writing a crore checks. But that's not how the journey of investors start. And I think if we are able to do as an ecosystem more demystification, we'll probably get more people to join the network of investors, and then the whole journey can probably change.
Sanjay, can you quickly tell us, like, what do you think an angel investor in 3 or 4 bullet points? How many years can he look for an exit? What should be a typical mindset? Just for any people in the audience who are wondering what angel investment is all about.
So, definitely an angel investor should look into certain points in any startup. So, as VC and most of our investors also look at is, the first most important thing is the person who is coming up with an idea, how passionate he is about it, and the idea itself along with the business model, and his analysis about that particular model into the market, and is it right time that product is or service is getting into the market, and overall the revenue monetization, whether this can really make money or this company can scale or it can grow from 10x to 100x over a period of time. So these are key factors where investors really look, and even startups, unfortunately a lot of startups just come with an ideation or with a simple early prototype and expect huge money with a very high valuation. I'm sure now investors are not going to buy such kind of ideas. You need to be really very practical when you meet any guy. As an investor, definitely when he's investing, somewhere back of his mind, he wants the company to grow and to win, and that definitely will lead to some kind of return. So typically if today you see any early startups, when they invest in a seed level, it's 3 to 5 years where an investor can get an exit or return. It's an exit for the investor, not for the company again.
Any other closing thoughts? Then we can open up for Q&A.
So the other thing, I agree with some of you guys, right? I always see, right, like if you look at India, our closest comparable would be China. I think as India, right, we are a conservative society. And if you look at, right, today your banks are giving 9% FD, right? Why should I even go and bet on a completely different thing, right? And you go and invest into the stock market, you have a short-term and long-term capital gains. If I go and invest into the startup, I don't even have a tax benefits. And if you look at, right, everybody, we see that, okay, China is creating this many brands and this many products, this many companies, whereas India, we couldn't do it. The reason, right, the lot of capital, free capital came from the governments. So that's the huge thing we see, like, is the emerging markets, right, like, even everybody, the money came to the investor or whoever is owning the money, it came through the lot of hard work, right? And you cannot just throw it out because you are not there, like you have not done the spending 2-3 times where I can say, I can just put it on betting on this money actually. So I believe, right, I think somewhere the Indian governments has to give this free money, the risk capital, put it on table, and there is a committee, there is a private and public partnership. That's where I think is the dynamics will change. Because it's like the angel investor, he has like 10 other investors sitting on his head, the fund, that they don't want to lose the money. And that whole thing, right, the government has to come up with a policy. Whatever the current policy is like completely nonsense. There's no use of that policy actually.
Startups looking for mentors. Yeah, any questions?
Vinuta, what I would like to add is that when you're looking to find mentors, investors, coaches, I think the only advice I will have is for you as an entrepreneur to get clarity in your own mind as to what you're looking for. A lot of times we kind of go out and explore and say, let me meet people and then I'll figure out what I need from them. And in my view, sometimes that's the wrong way of doing it. It's probably better for you to sit down with yourself, even before you sit with your team, just with yourself to say what's my passion, what's my vision, what's my dream of what I want to do in my enterprise. And for doing this, what do I possess as skills and knowledge, and what do I not possess, and where do I go and find them? So then when I am having an interaction with a possible investor, mentor, coach, I can kind of resonate and say, okay, this was my weakness, and I can see a person having that skill, so I should have a dialogue to see, can I bring him on board as any one of the three categories depending on the person you're meeting. But I think the clarity in your own mind is the most important thing for you to be able to find, because like we've said, there must be alignment. That alignment can only come when you have clarity yourself, because then you can align with someone else who's bringing something to the table.
A lot of times people in India get confused between the two words. Now, as a kind of contrast to that, a coach is someone who does not bring any of the background that you require for your business. We are as trained coaches actually trained to say that you do not bring, even if you bring a background. In the conversation with the coach, you do not bring the background that you have built into the conversation. Because the belief of a coach is that the answers lie with the coachee. I cannot provide you answers, because whatever answer I provide you based on my knowledge, my skill, is what was relevant for me. What was my circumstances when this worked. Those circumstances, one because of a time gap, and second because of the circumstances gap, will never be the same for you. And hence a lot of times the mistake a lot of us make is that I went and asked for advice. One, somebody gave advice, which as a coach you're not supposed to do. And second, I took the advice at face value, and then I went and implemented it, and it didn't work. 9 out of 10 times it will not work, because the circumstances are very different. So coming to your question of how does that difference happen, I think it's up to the founder or the entrepreneur to select people, to say that these are people from whom I want mentoring, because they bring domain knowledge or functional knowledge or business knowledge. And here is someone with whom I want to work as a coach. And as a coach, you don't need to be from a business. For example, as a coach, I coach housewives, I coach heart surgeons. I'm not a heart surgeon by profession. I don't know anything once I go into an operation theatre. The only play I have been into an operation theatre is on a bed as a patient. But that does not prevent me from an heart surgeon finding answers to this problem, because that's the training I bring to the table. And that's a coach. That's when I wear a coach hat. But when I look at it as an investor, I wear a mentor hat and say, I have run a business in the past, and these could be possible solutions. But both approaches, I think what Srikanth mentioned, is the key in both the approaches, that I cannot be the one giving the solution. Even if I am attempting to give the solution as the mentor or as a coach, I think it's for the founder to say, I have heard you, I will now go back and see what's the best advice for me, and I will implement what I need to do. And that's the key.
I'll just add a little more to the same question. Basically, as an investor director sitting on the board, you have to report to the rest of the directors about the performance of the company. Do you think a startup would be very comfortable and vulnerable enough to share what they're going through to the same person who is actually reporting to the rest of the investors? So that was more what I was looking at.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing. So this I see a very common tendency in few of our portfolio companies. So as an investment, we have one investment director, and sometimes he's also a mentor to them. So we always encourage startups to disclose, because as a business there is a lot of uncertainties, right? It's not always after funding you're going to go big. Definitely there is also going to be a good number of obstacles, or you may not perform well due to some uncertainties. So it's very much important first to reach out to your mentor or your investment director, discuss with him what happened, and is the person the point of contact for most of the investors, right? So he's going to definitely first together they come up with a solution, right? So most of the startups in such kind of situation they panic, or they'll be worried like what investors will think because we have taken their money and we are not performing enough. But it's understood. End of the day, when an investment is done, it's done not expecting any high returns or profitable, right? It's only to encourage them, keeping in mind it's a high risk capital and also business uncertainty. So this investment director plays a very important role, talking to these startups and also the rest of the investors, what the situation, why it occurred and how it can pass it. So an investment director will always comfort the startup. And my experience when I see most of our portfolio companies, they're very comfortable to talk to the investment directors as mentor about whatever.
There is a difference between the coach, mentor, and seeking advice. I say if the guy is coming and starting a business and coming and asking me, how should I do it? I said, man, no, but you are not even qualified to become an entrepreneur, right? You have a lot more steps to run. So like, see, the guy has to come and convince me, put out the story. Whatever he's doing is right. It could be wrong, but that's like a strong heart, brave heart you need to have.
But they learn only from people who know.
No, that's exactly right. There's a huge difference between the entrepreneur and others. The entrepreneur never bothers about learning. He thinks whatever is right, and we just go with that. See, of course, right, we all make mistakes and you have to learn from mistakes. I don't think somebody will come and tell you and you learn and go and do it. That guy would have been successful more than you. I don't believe in all this. Just have a gut feeling, start learning. If you fail, then you learn from that experience. And of course, right, starting a lot of people around you, you learn by yourself. Reading stories, looking at people, how the companies are doing, what is their roadmap, how am I relevant with myself to the Google, Amazon, Apple, both. You learn by yourself. That's your talent. If you don't have a talent of learning by yourself, you're not qualified to become an entrepreneur.
Actually, we come at least, I can say, I come across people who are probably 35 and all. They started up early and they just went and did what they did and they failed. And they probably took up a job and now they are 35 and they have a family, they have baggage. And they can't really leave all that and get into entrepreneurship. So, in a way, what coaching or mentoring or anything is helping is to soothe your journey along the way and take you to your destiny a little faster than you would otherwise have been.
That's exactly right. See, a lot of people start and they fail and they go to the employment. You know, like somebody with two kids and a wife and comes and says, I want to take a risk and do it. Either his family has to support him, or I tell him that somewhere, right, you work for a startup, you make a fortune out of it. I work for a startup, so I made my fortune. Now I can take any risk and like say if somebody says that we'll start a company but we cannot take a salary for 3 years, I'm willing to do that. So you need to wait for your time to come in. You may have a burning desire. It's nothing, right? Never think like entrepreneurship is you have to start a company. Today that's one of the like whenever like we pretty much I'm one of the top talent in the industry. Everybody I say that here is the option, here is the salary. If I have EMIs, last time I actually negotiated salary and what is the EMIs. I asked them what is your monthly burn rate at home. Somebody says 2 lakhs, somebody says 1 lakh. I say I'll give it, remind me your options. And then like at least family said, come and work. And like maybe right, this is your fortune. We all make a fortune. Then after this money, you make this like exit or whatever it is. You won't start whatever you want to do. A lot of times you have to make a calculated decisions.
Thank you. So, no more questions? As Vivek said, we were very, very, very clear. Okay, there.
First disclaimer, when in India for any question there's one simple answer. And the answer is it depends. Okay, so I will start the answer of this question also with it depends on the fact that what is it that you are doing as a business and what is it that you require the funds for. So to answer your question, I would tend to think that the fund infusion into the business should be delayed as far as possible. So for some businesses, because the business itself requires so much fund that an individual is not able to do, they must bring it at a very early stage as a seed fund. But for my advice to most people, and I invest as an investor, is that don't bring on an investor till you don't need to. Because while an investor is a very good, important, strategic person to bring on board, but delay it as far as possible for two reasons. One, because it gives you the freedom to take the product and the vision to a stage that you had anticipated to take it to. That's one. And second, it helps you create value for your product or service before people invest. Because why should you kind of underserve yourself by bringing in somebody very early and hence doing much less valuation into your business? You should rather build the prototype, take it to market, do some pivot, do some pilots, and then bring in cash, because then you will be able to get a much better valuation for yourself and for the business. So I would tend to think that there is no straight answer, which is why I said it depends. Because if it's a very large initiative and you need, for a small market rollout itself, you need 5 crores. Now that I would advise that you do it yourself, unless you have the ability to do it. But if it depends on a small business where I'm saying to do all of that, it requires only 50 lakhs of infusion, then I would strongly suggest that try and find a method from family, friends and yourself. So do it, create the product, take it to market, get some first customer experience, and then go to an investor to look at money.
There are a group of students setting up a startup. We would like your suggestion whether to go for angel investors or raising our own funds for that startup.
They want to know if they want to raise investment from an angel investor or raise seed round from their own family and friends.
Yeah, I think just Vivek has given a lot of insights. So keeping in mind, first, what is your product? Once you feel that okay, your product is in the market, validated, and you identify few prospects or some customers, then you think. But as a college level, I suggest you can apply for any of these incubators, because incubators also provide grant or some seed fund for you. So it depends. If the product is already well matured enough in the market, then probably you can approach any angel investors, keeping your ticket size in mind. If still it's very nascent on a prototype or a big stage, then probably you can get into any incubator who will provide you seed fund with other MBAs.
And but very specifically, in short, if I have to answer, hope that would help. Between seed and angel, if you have to first raise, I mean, there are three people, 3 F's, like you're all from the investor side. It's very common, this terminology. So we say friends, family, and fools. So if you can raise money from any of these 3 people in the first phase, do so. After that, come to structured networks, angel investors, VC funds, people like that.
Once the startup comes to a stable state, and if they want to expand or scale, like normally they go to VC or they get some kind of funds, right? Like what are the terms that a startup has to negotiate with the VC, like to scale up their business with respect to financial or the control over the business?
That's like, the answer will be really elaborate if I have to do justice. So I think we have to take this offline. I mean, there are like shareholders agreements, term sheets, a lot of legal paperwork and all that. You need to it's a different forum, different question. We have to take it offline. I mean, as I said, if I have to do justice, it has to be an elaborate answer. It can't be like a 1 or 2 line sentence.
After 3:30, you can connect with the mentors and investors here, talk to them over the coffee break. Thank you all. Thank you. It was great having all of you. Can I now request Mrs. Sridevi, Executive Director of TIE, to come over and hand over the mementos to the panelist and the moderator. The mementos are with the names, so you just have to make sure you get your right memento. Thank you, Mr. P.S. Srikanth, for being here. Thank you, Mr. Vivek Verma, for being here. Thank you, Sanjay and Mr. Narsi Reddy, for adding all the insights to raise funds or not to raise funds. Thank you, Vinita, for my last minute request. Thank you for making it more interactive and engaging.